You can give that options to your kids that they don't feel like they have to be a doctor or an engineer. Maybe they have it in their heart to do something different that brings them joy. By having a little bit of savings, it allows the ability to explore those.
Welcome to The Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Conscious Investor, welcome. Have you here. Now, I haven't usually put it like this, but let's just throw it out there today. The price of admission to the podcast today, please share this episode with someone in your life or another podcast episode. And if you haven't already left a rating or review, a rating will take you seriously. Just scroll down to the bottom and click whatever stars you want to click. And boom, you're done. It's so fast, so simple. And I really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference in how the podcast reaches other people. And remember, we want to support and serve other people in powerful ways. And so, and if you leave a written review, oh my gosh, those are just pure gold. And you know that because I tell you that every week. So thank you so much. And I want to remind you something else that I don't usually say. Do you know the podcast is actually sponsored by 3 Keys Investments? I don't know if you know that, but that's how the podcast is also supported. So I want you to make sure that you are checking out 3 Keys Investments and see if there's information there. There's all sorts of freebies that you can download from book lists, or you could go and grab Apartment Investing Made Simple. There are so many ways that we are there to support you as a passive investor. Now, we're going to just stop right there because I have one of just the warmest, kindest people that is walking the earth on the show today. I got to meet Jennifer in person for the very first time this past summer at an event in Denver. And it was just you just want to be around her because she's just so kind and so warm and so smart. I mean, what an amazing combination, life and wits and smarts. It's wow. So I am just absolutely excited. We're going to have a conversation about passive investing. And you know what? They lost a lot in 2008. And I don't know the full story. I'm so curious. And I'm sure you already are curious as well. So let's dive in. Jennifer, so happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. Like you said, when we met in Denver, you just were one of those people I gravitated towards. And I remember thinking, I've never met you, but I've always wanted to meet you. And I was so excited that we were at the same place at the same time. And we went outside and we kind of separated ourselves from everyone else. And we just hit it off immediately. And the only thing I'm really sad about is you don't live in my own hometown, that we can't get together on a regular basis and just go have fun and invest together. But we're going to make that happen. I'm confident.
We are going to make that happen. In fact, will you tell us a little bit? Jen also has make sure I'm being proper here. Jennifer has her own podcast, and here's our idea. I'm going to have her share about her podcast in just a moment. And you're going to want to make sure that you go over and that you click follow or subscribe or whatever it is on your platform so that you're getting exposure to her amazing podcast as well. But I said, and we just recorded an episode on her show. And here's my goal. My goal is that we bring our 2 audiences together and we all invest together in a deal, because Jennifer is somebody I really want to partner in with. So let's talk about your podcast for just a brief moment.
Well, I love that goal. and I know we could do it. So my podcast is called Mastering Money for Moms. I recently just rebranded, and it's a hope of enlightening mothers in the space of finances. I've seen it too many times where women get to their 70s and they thought that their husband was taking care of all the finances. But the reality is finances can be difficult. And all of us, whether we're educated or not, sometimes we make poor decisions financially. And I've seen some of my friends end up in a space where they're left with very little after their husbands pass. And it's heart-wrenching. And so I think it's an important conversation to be having, or as early as possible in your marriage. Start preparing yourself, educating yourself, and don't put that all on the husband to do. I think it's very important for women to become knowledgeable about the investment vehicles that their husbands are choosing for them and their families. So hope you'll come over and join me as well. And together we will enrich each other's lives.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know what? If you're a dad and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that sounds like a mom thing. You know what? You're a dad. You probably know a mom, probably know a lot of moms that would benefit from this. So make sure that you share it, send it in a text message. It's really easy to do, right? So I'm totally curious about losing so much in '08. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So, I was probably 35, raising all of our young children. We have 4 kids. They're all within 6 years of one another. And we gave over our portfolio to a financial advisor. And at the time I thought, I've got a finance degree. There's no reason why I shouldn't be managing our money. But we were in a very crazy time in our life where we had babies and, sporting activities. And so we gave it over to somebody to manage it for us. Well, when 2008 hit, obviously the market dropped very quickly. And unfortunately, our financial advisor had not put any stops in to to protect our stock investments that we had ownership in. And I would recommend, if anybody has money in the stock market, that you protect yourself, whether or not you're in it for 20 years, 40 years, your lifetime. I know we all know it has ebbs and flows, but if you have the ability to put in stops, and I know now that they require you to go in there monthly and update those stops, it is worth your time. You could protect your nest egg. And unfortunately, there were bigger, clients that my financial advisor had, and we lost half of it. And with 4 kids, that one day the goal was to help them go to college debt-free. And so as my kids were getting a little later in life, I always knew I wanted to go. I needed to make up for that lost income. My husband had a really good job, but, there was no way to make up for those lost dollars. I mean, it was pretty significant. So I knew at some point I was going to have to take on a job when they started approaching high school and my days were a little more open. And thankfully, I was invited to a Rich Dad conference. And I didn't know at all what it was. It was just an afternoon event with my girlfriend. And I said, you know what? I don't have anything to do this afternoon. I'll go with you. And that was the first thing I will recommend to anybody listening, is be open to opportunities that come your direction. I had lots of networking opportunities that came my way, and I took my friends up on those, and I did well in several different networking opportunities that I participated in. And then real estate came across my door, and I jumped into that. And it was scary. I will tell you, it was really, really hard, but I knew that other people had done this same thing. There were lots of people in real estate, and I knew that if I just followed the recipe that they set out before me, I too could have the same kind of success. And so that's what I did. I purchased the program and started following the directions on how to buy real estate. And all these years later, We've been able to put all of our kids through college, all four of them. My fourth child is graduating this week.
Oh, congratulations.
Super excited. Yes. All of them debt free. So we gave them that gift. And then we have almost tripled our net worth in 7 years on top of paying for their college debt free. So real estate has really given us the financial freedom to live the life we want. And I feel like, thankfully, it came into my life. I was open to it. But even bigger than that is we now are just taking the lid off of the possibilities. We're at a time in our life where we have the option to continue to grow this for many years to come and create generational wealth for our grandchildren. And I think that is the difference maker, when you can give that options to your kids, that they don't feel like they have to be a doctor or an engineer. Maybe they have it in their heart to do something different that brings them joy. By having a little bit of savings, it allows them the ability to explore those that you might not otherwise have. And so I guess that at the end of the day, that's what we've tried to create for our family. And it's just been a gift from God. So we're really, really thankful for it.
Wow, that is amazing. And it's amazing how substantially and how quickly, when we invest well in real estate assets, it can really snowball our wealth and that's amazing. And when we have hearts that want to serve and to contribute in powerful ways, it's not just about, oh, I have a bunch of money. It's like, look what opportunities that this money brings about. And it's not just for me, it's for others. I love that. Now you have, invested passively, and I'd love to learn a little bit about your passive experience.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, when I first started investing, I started using my IRA dollars.
Yay!
Yes. And those were the first dollars I put to use in real estate. So I sold everything out of the stock market in our IRA, started buying up homes, and created passive income through that source, just single family homes. And then I transitioned over into multifamily syndications, where I continue to use my IRA dollars investing in other people's multifamily apartment buildings when they're presented to me. And then I'm also now a general partner on all the apartment buildings I find. And that's more of an active investment. But my favorite investments are the ones where other people are managing them and I get to passively invest in them.
What do you see as, financially, the difference between, being on the active side or being on the passive side? What are some of the trade-offs that you've noticed?
Well, with active, anytime you're active, that means you need to show up for the asset management calls. You know very well what's going on within the budget and the financial decisions that are going on a weekly basis. You know what collections are and delinquencies and work orders. I mean, that's all part of the active management of a property. Passive income is really where your biggest energy. I guess what I'm trying to say is up front, you're going to analyze the deal. And once you analyze it, that's about the most active you'll be in that investment, except for looking at the finances as they come through on a monthly basis. But otherwise, you read through the subscription agreements and you make your commitment to invest in that property. And then you wait and you read the monthly reports. So passive investment, like I said, is really a beautiful space to be in when you're a high income earner or you don't have the time to be active in. Those are the investments I would be seeking if I'm not, somebody in your audience trying to figure out a way to put my hard-earned dollars to work.
That's all like amazing and absolutely insightful. I love using IRAs to invest. And conscious investor, if we've been on a phone call to discuss investing, that that's one of the questions I ask. It's such a friendly way to get started, just by tapping into your, retirement accounts and rolling them over. It's very simple to do, and it opens up a tremendous amount of opportunities for you. So, go ahead.
No, just absolutely. The sad thing is I remember reaching out to our financial advisor and saying, hey, I'd like to invest in real estate. And he said, you can't do that. And then after I got into my Rich Dad classes and I asked them the same thing, they said, no, you absolutely can use your IRA dollars, but not all financial advisors can do it. So if you're being told by your financial advisor that you can't use your IRA dollars, what they are telling you is they can't invest on your behalf as a custodian for you. You have to take your dollars out of that particular financial firm and move it to somebody else that can be a custodian and act on your behalf. And one of my favorites is Advanta. They're really good. They're out of Atlanta. I recommend, I've worked with 3 or 4 different IRA companies, and they're my favorite. They just make it super, super simple for their investor as well as the syndicator, like you and I are, Julie, to work with them. So, and don't let your financial advisor that may be telling you that you can't use your IRA dollars to invest in real estate, just to understand that he doesn't quite understand probably what you're asking, or he doesn't have the capacity to act on your behalf.
Yeah, our financial advisor wasn't really happy that we were double downing into real estate.
I'm sure. It
was very interesting, but that financial advisor, very wonderful person, well-intended, but I definitely have done better in real estate than on the stock market personally. So, when you were looking over deals as you were, those times that you are investing passively, how do you choose to evaluate those deals, or what advice would you have to someone who's new to reviewing an offering?
Yeah, so I get a lot of deals that come across my desk. And one of the things that I first have to ask myself is, am I trying to receive passive income monthly or quarterly through distributions? Do I need income that often? Or am I trying to make a net worth play where I try to let my funds sit, and maybe in 3 to 5 years, my hope is to double my net worth? And if that's the play, then you're going to evaluate the investments coming across your desk a little differently. And so it's important to see how often do they anticipate paying out. And if you're buying an asset that's going to take a lot of renovations, you could anticipate that they're probably not going to be paying out distributions anytime soon. So if your motivation is getting distributions on a regular basis, you want to evaluate it from that perspective. And whoever brought you the deal will be able to tell you that and show you how to read those reports so that you can see that. And in a lot of cases, syndicators like you and I, we will have webinars in advance and share all the particulars about the property. I think it's important to understand who you're investing with. Look at their track record. How long have they been in real estate? Is this their first rodeo? Those are all really important things. And then looking at the market, where is the investment, or where is the asset located? I want to make sure that I'm investing in areas that are in high demand so that they can weather the market fluctuations that we've been experiencing for the last 3 years since COVID hit. And maybe you want to invest in areas where people are moving to. But I always make sure we invest in areas where there's a large diversification of employers. So I would just caution you to go to one-horse towns that are maybe oil towns or just college towns. because what if you get somebody in office and they're against using oil, right? We've seen it time and time again. One president gets in office and is in favor of the X, and then another president gets in favor.
Yeah.
They get into office and they're in favor of Y. And these towns are decimated. And if you've got an asset that's in one of those towns, guess what? Your returns just plummeted because of one particular viewpoint from one candidate. So you just want to make sure you go into it. And one thing I always think of is, this is an investment. What is the worst case scenario? And if the worst case scenario is I can lose it all, how devastating is that going to be for you and your family? And if it's not going to be detrimental and you feel like you can afford the risk and you believe in the asset and you've studied it enough, then my belief is you move forward on it. If you believe in all of the foundational, factors that you've analyzed. So I hope I didn't go off on a tangent too much there.
No, you didn't. It's all like grounded, like that is brass tacks. Like that is what we need to be looking for. And I am so with you. I grew up in the Central Valley of California. And so when Silicon Valley had the whole .com crash, it's just shifted things so much. And, we'd have the San Francisco Bay Area. If everything was doing great, things were too expensive. So people would move over into our Central Valley. And then when things would crash, they would move back. And, but when Silicon Valley, we had the .com crash, that is just etched in my memory for life of just, it was a, one horse town, and that's what it had going on. And it's not like that so much any longer, but yeah, definitely looking at what is this economy based on? And if something gets pulled offline, where are people going to work? How are they going to pay their rent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really critical.
Yeah. Do you invest only in multifamily, or do you invest in other asset classes?
Yes. So I do have a portfolio of single family homes, and I've got some short-term rentals. And then everything else is multifamily. I do have some new construction projects that I've invested my IRA dollars with, that somebody else is the syndicator on. But other than that, that is it. How about you?
Oh, that's nice. No, I am 100% multifamily. Yes. And I look at other asset classes. I have some other asset classes that I'm interested in, like light industrial is very interesting to me. But I really want to understand it. And you know what, Conscious Investor, you know this about me. You've been listening for a long time now. So you know that I really like to understand something before moving forward. So yeah, I've considered self-storage, but then when I consider self-storage beside multifamily, I end up sticking with multifamily because I don't know if you recall, but I know everybody seems to have this little blip of amnesia, but like there was this thing called the Great Recession, and people lost a lot of money, and they didn't want to pay to store their stuff. They wanted to put a roof over their head, and self-storage didn't do so great. And so I love that it's vibrant and it's thriving, but at the end of the day, my philosophy is people are going to pay to put something over their head and food in their kids' mouths before they store all their junk.
You're right. In my opinion, it's a luxury item. If you're cutting expenses, you're probably going to cut that, right? If you have to make some hard decisions, that's probably going to go. So I'm with you. And that's the reason they are having a lot of success in that space, and they may continue. And I hope so for their benefit. But for me, I'm like you. Everybody needs a place to lay their head. And as long as you're kind of abiding by good investment strategies, again, going back to having a lot of different employers in a particular town, making sure your median income is there that will support the rent you're trying to get. As long as all those factors are strong and it's a highly desirable area, you're going to do well.
Okay, that highly desirable area. This is great. My husband sent me sent me a deal the other day, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I love that he's starting to kind of get back into this a little bit with me. He's like, "What do you think of this? This looks good." And I've learned the hard way. Look at the area first in spot crime. And so, I just instantly, he sent it to me. I'm like, well, it does look great, but let's look at this. I threw it into spot crime. And, it's just the proximity to certain types of crime is like, I don't want the resident profile that I would like to invite into our life is not going to feel comfortable in this area. So,
well said. I finally found a property in my own backyard. And I was like, finally, after how many years of looking for a multifamily asset, I find one here where I live, and I'm super excited about it. And then I did the same thing. I looked at the crime and I was like, oh, that just killed it, killed the whole deal. I was like, you can't do anything about that, right?
You can't.
So you have to walk away. And it's unfortunate when that happens so my lesson was maybe do the crime check first.
Well, and that was honestly, I learned that the hard way because we'd gone down the rabbit hole and underwriting a property. This is a long time ago, but it stuck with me. Like, just put it in spot crime first and just see if it's even worth the while.
I did the exact same thing recently. And I was like, oh, why didn't I start here first?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good starting spot for sure. And, conscious investor, as you're evaluating deals, this is one of those ways that you can choose to vet the deal. It's easy. Just go to Spot Crime or some other website. It's free. Put in the address. The sponsor team is going to present the deal to you, and obviously it's going to share all the good, positive signs of it. Just confirm that. And if there is something that you find is questionable, sometimes those maps, I have found that sometimes those maps aren't completely accurate. I've looked at different places where I've lived or places I've been very familiar with, knowing the streets and the blocks very well. I'm like, but that's interesting. It shows that, but I would be comfortable living there. And so, definitely check it. And if it looks a little, as my teen would say, sus, that's probably passé these days. But if it looks suspicious, then, have that discussion with the sponsorship team about what does this neighborhood look like? If it's a neighborhood that's gentrifying, which means it's a neighborhood that's in the improvement stage, then it might look a little rough around the feathers as that crime diminishes. I know I was looking at an asset in Columbus, Ohio, in an area that was gentrifying, and we had an asset under contract. And guess what? It looked not so great on Spot Crime, but in person, and I walked the area, I drove the area, it wasn't bad. And it's a place where I would have gone jogging and felt very safe and comfortable. So It's a great, definitely check it. Now, wait, hold on. I do have to say, it didn't have handcuffs or fists. Just, the guy running away, the theft, right? And so you're looking at what kind of crime is this taking place?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's good advice. Yeah. The handcuffs, or guns, right? You don't want to see the guns on your map.
Yes. Yeah. Just to stay away from the violent crimes. If there are violent crimes around, stay away from it. But, always ask the sponsor team what their rationale for even choosing to invest in an area like that. Hear them out, seek to understand before you completely dismiss it, but definitely worthwhile. Wow.
Well, and as people try to get into this space, whether it's single family or multifamily. I remember being so hungry to get a deal done in the beginning that I realized the best deals are in the low, high crime areas. Yeah. But you don't want to sacrifice your own life to go to the property.
Nope.
So my rule of thumb is, if you're not willing to go there, don't put your crew, your general contractor and his, staff in harm's way just to make a buck. My opinion is there's lots of neighborhoods that would love to have you. And, if you're flipping homes, which I've flipped 43 homes now, my thing is there's lots of neighborhoods you can still make a difference in. So don't put yourself in harm's way or your contractors.
That is really wise advice. And, whatever you're not paying, if you're paying a lower amount for something in a tougher area, you got to ask yourself if you're really getting the bargain that you want. You're probably going to get what you're not bargaining for. And even if you have, great residents, you can't protect them from what could come into their space. And that's unfortunate.
Absolutely right. I had a tenant last year that wanted to move because her neighbor next door wasn't paying their electricity. So they had a extension cord going to the front stoop and plugged in, and he was paying for electric. Yes. And so that freaked her out, and understandably so, right?
Yeah.
So my tenant was like, I can't live here. I need to leave. And so I let her out of her contract, and she moved. And thankfully I got that sold because it was the height of, the real estate market last year. But, you just need to be cognizant of those things. Yeah. You can't keep a good neighbor or a good resident there when you're in a bad area.
Yeah. Well, I always hear people that, landlords, the joke in our spaces, you can avoid tenants, termites, and toilets, or, however they say it. But you know what? Now we can add extension cords on there.
I'd never heard of it before in my 7 years, but that's the fun about real estate, is every day is a new day. It has never been the same.
No, it isn't. Every day is a new day. It is so much fun.
Yeah.
Jennifer, this has been so much fun. I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining me on The Conscious Investor. And, so how can the conscious investor is probably feeling aligned. You and I are very similar in our outlooks and philosophies on life. They're probably feeling aligned, and you can never have enough, people to reach out to, enough sponsors who might have deals. I know, at this time, I'm kind of, just waiting on a couple of opportunities. And I invited my investor, introduced my investor to 2 other investing friends because they need to deploy capital. So it's always good to have these relationships. Yeah. It's always good to be cultivating these relationships because, you know what? I do 2 to 3 deals. Our company, 2 to 3 deals a year. That's it. There's no drive to do more than that. And so you want to make sure that you have people in your sphere that you feel aligned with and that you're developing that relationship. So best way.
Yeah. The best, I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it was like we both went at the same time. It was like such a high five in the air.
Yeah. So the best way to reach me is go to Mastering Money for Moms, and that's plural.com. And you'll find my website. You can always reach out and send me an email directly. I'm Jennifer at lighthouse-ventures, and that's plural.com as well. So anyway, I look forward to hearing from anybody that wants to directly connect with me. So I just am thrilled. Thank you again so much for having me on your podcast today. It's just been such a joy, and I'm grateful for it.
Oh, I'm grateful for you. Thank you for everything that you do in this world. Better place because of you. Conscious investor, you are amazing. And remember, adventure belongs on the trail, not in your investing and not in your personal life. So remember, if you need some support financially, that means, hey, let's talk about investing. Let's look at what that's like for you, in the real estate syndication space. And if that means you're like, gosh, I know I have more potential in me, like I want to contribute in a greater capacity, or maybe you're confused. There's so many reasons that you might not feel personally free. So make sure that in either of these capacities, reach out to me directly, julie@julieholly.com, and let's set up a time so that we can, support you in leveling up your life so that you have that financial and personal freedom. Until next time, live big, love bigger, and do great things. Are you enjoying this episode? Do the world a favor and help trip the algorithm by leaving a review so that this content reaches many others.